let's look at our revenue. And we're talking about this vicious cycle. Ada, who was here earlier, about how much you're borrowing and how much your revenue is coming. Then you go into debt servicing. Then it comes around. Then it goes round and round and round. When you sit down in your London office, do you see us as going round in circles?
Well, I mean, it's typical of most African countries. Revenue is underperforming in Nigeria. Revenue collection is underperforming. If you look at the entire composition of revenue in the budget, you see that the recoveries as well as the revenue from the parastatal or state-owned enterprise, independent revenue, have been underperforming for quite a while. Of course, partly to do with leakages, inefficiency issues, and that's the main reason behind that. And then at the same time, the governments, continue to spend more as with any other African countries. So of course, we'll continue to see these deficits, these budget deficits in the market within the short term, which of course will induce more borrowing. But like I said, the government has the room, the capacity to borrow, but when it comes to debt servicing, it's an issue. So if they can reduce the leakages in the system, then we'll see less borrowing on the side of the government and for the reduction in yields.
But are you encouraged with some of the revenue expansion initiatives, the tax amnesty, for example, the plan to do something around luxury tax, and perhaps VAT and all of that? Do you think the Kemi Adeosun's Minister of Finance seems to be going shooting on all fours? Are you encouraged by what you've seen so far? Do you think they should do more?
I think more has to be done, more in closing the leakages. I think what they do in terms of...
Leakages from where?
The parastatals. I mean, for instance, when you get the revenue from the various state-owned organizations or the customs, etc., there has to be some leakages, some closing of gap there in the recoveries as well. They're somewhat undermined by perhaps legal issues whereby you recover the assets, but then there's a problem with regards to the judiciary in claiming that asset and actually spending the money. So that needs to be fast-tracked, a strengthening of the legal system as well in order to encourage all that.
What's your view on the state of our banking system?
I think at the moment, because of NPLs, there's a problem with regards to lending, which of course makes sense. Credit risk remains very high. And for as long as we see credit risk being high, that there will always be a problem with regards to lending, and that somehow makes the economy a bit subdued in terms of economic activity. But we're anticipating that the economy is likely to pick up, which of course will help to generate some liquidity in the markets. And then maybe assuming that the CBN begins to lower rates, hopefully next year, then we're likely to see some reduction in the borrowing rates and easing of pressure by the borrowers.
What interest rate environment easing are you looking at for next year? Give me some figure.
Well, at least two rate reductions next year. It will depend on how things progress.
You're an economic research analyst, so you should have an horizon. So give us your horizon.